Welcome everyone to our first episode of Pride in the Living Room, Jewmos edition. So Pride in the Living Room was founded by Israeli LGBT task force Agudah to give a platform for LGBT Jews to share their stories, to encourage empathy and community. And I was inspired to bring this initiative back home to Jewmos. And it is my pleasure to welcome Reuben to the stage. So over to you, Reuben.
Thank you, Jared. And my name is Reuben Lewy. I was born and raised in a Reformed Jewish family here in Chicago, Illinois. I probably realized, here's something most don't hear. I probably realized that I myself was gay when I was about 9 or 10. My dad would bring home videos, and he'd allow my brother and I to watch them. And I realized that I was more interested in the men in the videos than I was the women. Although I never let on to anyone else till much later. I finally started coming out to friends when I was a sophomore in college. Oh boy, let's backtrack. High school, which may not have been the smartest thing, but I sort of felt around a little bit, trying to decide, who I knew I could and couldn't come out to, both in my regular school and in religious school. And I suppose I can say I'm lucky that I didn't have much backlash, especially in religious school. But I think part of that may be because of the congregation I grew up in. I grew up with Rabbi Herman E. Schallman, who was a Holocaust survivor, who, even though knowing what happened during the Holocaust and how much tolerance there wasn't, especially toward Jews and those who helped Jews, he decided that he needed to teach his students how not to hate, because he figured they would bring on a better world, which I'm tending to agree with. In fact, he did that in a summer camp that I went to for at least 9 summers. But I didn't realize how much of role models would have been nice. The only role model I can think of, but then I didn't know her or her partner that well. I know of her music was the late Debbie Friedman, who wrote a lot of the liturgy that is sung in many Reform and now other congregations as well. And she and her female partner, I got to meet, but I didn't know them that well. But time went on, and the first person in my family that I can say that I was lucky to have on my side was my dad's mom, someone who everybody adored, and you couldn't put anything past Grandma. She asked me to come over one day, and I'm not exactly sure how I put who I was bringing over, because I said I was doing something, and she said, bring them with you. And Grandma knew right away. She opened up the door, and there was not just another man standing there. She knew almost in an instant that this was someone I was in a relationship with, and it was nice. And I know, unfortunately, there are many who struggle. My biggest struggle came, excuse me, when I finally had to come out to my parents, which I do not wish on anybody having to do the way I did it. I had a friend who was kind of blackmailing me into coming out, and he upped the ante to where I felt that I might need a lawyer. And so, how do you tell mom and dad that you need a lawyer, and why, if you don't come out to them? My parents came with the most mixed emotions that I've ever seen or heard in stories. My grandmother had died. My dad's mom had died just months before, and my poor father had just had open heart surgery. And his first question to me was, or not even a question, it was, he turned to me and said, "What do you think you're doing to your grandmother? She's probably turning over in her grave." And I said, "Well, no, actually, Dad, Grandma knew 2 years ago." But from there, it was touch and go, and I don't know how many times until I actually moved out of their house that I had a feeling that there could, at any time, my father throw me out of the house for being gay. Although my dad had his quirks, and although he's gone now these last 20 years, I don't miss all of them, but I miss some of them. Someone who bought me 2 CDs of my favorite LGBT groups. The first one just threw me for a loop because we were listening to a program which I was ready to turn off, and he was enjoying it. He even was going to buy a building for my brother and I to share as real estate property, but turned down the chance to do so because he couldn't get the owner of the building to tell him why. The owner said that the building needed to be fumigated. The only answer he could get out of the owner was that the reason it needed to be fumigated was because people of AIDS had died. And my dad said, "No, that's not a reason why one needs to fumigate a building. Now tell me what the real reason is." So my dad wasn't stupid. It's just he was very hard to get along with at times, especially when it came to relationships. I've never, up until I came out, I could have bought my best friends just the funniest little pencil when on vacation. And when I started doing it for guys who I was calling my boyfriend, and my dad was, all of a sudden, it was throwing for a loop, and he called it buying their love. And I'm like, I can see it if it was a piece of jewelry, but a pencil. And I feel sad also because my dad and I, well, my whole family was close. And there were things that unfortunately I knew and felt I couldn't do while he was alive. Sadly, as I said, 20 years ago about this time, he passed away, and not even a year later, my family and I went to Israel for actually my third time. And each time Israel is such a great country to feel free and explore. As someone of the LGBT community, I never realized how progressive religious state can be until the times that I have been in Israel. But in this particular time, it was agreed by my family that we would tour together by day, and by night we could do whatever we wanted. Oh, there happened to be a disco near the hotel, and I went on my own to see what I could find. And some of us then left the disco for an outdoor bar, and nothing. I mean, sometimes I come back and wish that we had bars like that here. Not that I'm big into bars and ever have been, but it's so nice to be able to be out and walk the streets and make it look as if it's one big bar. So this particular night, my mom happened to be walking back from wherever to our hotel, and she waved, and I waved back at her, and it was right. Well, no, that two of the guys came and asked her to join us, and when I saw that my mom could sit down and be with me and friends, it just opened another door, and that's when I decided when I got back that I was going to join the Chicago Gay Men's Chorus, which opened up a whole new. I mean, I've been in pride parades, but singing as one of a whole community of men and women is a whole new thing. Showing people that we're not the harm that they feared us to be for many decades, and some still fear us. I mean, it's sad to see signs that are still around that say "faggot to home." I haven't been harmed, but I know I have friends who have gotten into scuffs with people who just with because of homophobia. In fact, one thing that saddened me is how many times I've had shows where we've wondered why we hadn't gotten the audience that we wanted to. And it turns out because we realized, or didn't realize until the end, there were words in the title that people still don't feel comfortable in using and seeing, and so we got to get out there and teach the world that yes, it probably still isn't the greatest way to see the community, but the names aren't going to disappear. In fact, now in many ways, queer is being used as an identity, and it's been hard for me to learn now that I'm in my 50s, but I figure if the kids can embrace it, why can't I? It's not going to disappear, just like the Star of David hasn't disappeared, even though it was used as shame during the Holocaust, and the pink triangle, again used during the Holocaust to shame the gay community, and we embrace it. In fact, one of my favorite memories of being gay and being out is going to Israel in 2006 for a World Pride event in Jerusalem. And what made it fascinating was the fact that it was in Jerusalem, even though, and we had seen a documentary that was made trying to keep the event from ever happening. But once we got there, it was amazing to see how many people still were trying to run around.
Potential spam.
Sorry about that. But Israel is such a liberating country that as hard as one tries to keep the community from flourishing, I don't think they're trying their hardest, and I think it's because they're realizing that the one verse that's thrown at us and has been for centuries now, what the verse really means. A couple of rabbis have since told me that it was actually put in there to be against pedophilia, which unfortunately is not how it's been translated. And I'm not ashamed of, and never have been ashamed of who I am. Back in 2004, the LGBT congregation, or Hadash, started holding services in the congregation that I grew up in. And that was another thing. I was asked if I wanted to become one of the lay people because the congregation couldn't afford to have a full-time rabbi or cantor. And the feeling that you get from just being up there, and then afterwards being told what a job well done, and I was taught how to research things because using the same words in the Siddur, Shabbat after Shabbat, uh, um, can seem tedious, although the words were put there for a reason. And I know in the Orthodox communities and other communities, they don't vary much at all. And I don't blame them, but it just was interesting to be able to stand up there a couple of Shabbats a year and lead a service. It was through Orthodox and now being with the choir and all that I realized I had become an advocate or not, no, that too, of the community. I never realized how much I was helping push forward, whether it was marriage equality, trying to bring down don't ask, don't tell here in the United States. Lost my train of thought. But and then in Israel, when I was there in 06, they had just put up walls around one of the biggest cities where our Palestinian brethren were now walled in and had a hard time getting out because just years before, many from that area had come out suicide bombers. And if someone had told me that I was going to protest outside that wall, I probably would have said originally that you were crazy. And yet I went there with the group, and it just saddens me that here's a country that I love, and I know because I have Palestinian friends that they love too, but there's people on both sides that make it hard for that to happen. And being someone who's Jewish and Zionist, Zionism doesn't mean that, in my opinion, that Israel should be the only thing that exists, that everybody who is in the area should be able to live freely as long as they want to help protect Israel's borders. Actually, a funny story that came out of that same time being there is my final day there. I had realized that I hadn't gotten my grandfather anything, and he was the one who sponsored the trip. And so I was now on my way back to the hotel, and here's where my kippah could have screamed I'm gay. My shirt, I had things on my backpack that could have screamed he's gay, and yet there was a patriarch of a family inside a park who came up to me and asked if I was a soldier, and I was like, why do you ask? And then I realized the backpack was an Israeli paratrooper backpack. And I said no, but thank you for asking. And then we got to talking more, and he asked if I had had lunch yet, and I said no. And so he invited me to have lunch with his family, and we talked. And before we departed, I even had fun playing with his kids, and so it goes to show that not everybody out there is afraid of us. We just have to learn to, I think, show the respect before we can receive the respect that we wanted. And I'm finding that more and more as time goes on. There's even congregations, Orthodox congregations in my area, where I've been invited for Shabbat, and it's wonderful because I've come wearing either a pride kippah or something similar to it, and I'm just like the next person entering the door and leaving, saying Shabbat Shalom when time is done. And it really is good to know that I'm alive during this, when this is happening, and I'm helping any way I can, whether it's in my congregation or other organizations that I belong to help slowly bring this around. And it would be nice to be able to help bring it around to the rest of the world, because I have friends in parts of the world who are definitely really scared of coming out, and when they tell me why, I understand. But it would be nice to be able to help them get the recognition that they want. Although I know there's more here in the United States. I'm sure in Australia and in Israel. In fact, going back to Israel the last time I was there, I've been chatting with a gentleman before I even left the United States to go, and he wanted to meet up. And I warned him, I said, I'm going to be in an apartment, and I'm going to be in an apartment with my family. Well, I don't know if it was language barrier, and I do apologize if that's what it was, but he came up to our apartment and got very upset because my mom was there. But yeah, unfortunately, I know I can't expect change to happen overnight. In fact, one last thing is that when I started out trying to find a partner and whatnot, I always said that I only wanted men, but I didn't never realized how many different kinds of men there are. And I always specified that I didn't want a woman, but now there are so many transgender men who are just as handsome. And is it us as a person as a whole that makes up the person that we love, or is it our genitals? I mean, I suppose I can only speak for myself, but and it took me a long time to get there. And but no, I don't. People have asked me, well, how could you say that you want that type of person if you didn't want a woman? I said, well, because I don't see them as what they once were. I see them as the man that they are now. I think the world would be a much better place if we could see each other for the beauty that we are, not the beauty that biblical man or science of yesteryear wanted us to be. That in a prayer that I said twice for Pride Jewmos was, what is truly a man or a woman? Because in the Bible it says we were all created in Betzalel in God's image, but it doesn't specify what exactly that is. It's not till much later, and then I question now, were we named the gender that we were because man got first choice to choose, or or is man actually what we truly are? Same thing with what is a horse, what is a fish, because the books of yesteryear didn't have pictures, so we're only going by what was visualized in someone's mind, or what was pointed out to us as we grew through the centuries.
I think that's a great place to wrap up your story.
Mhm.
And I have one or two questions, if I may.
Yeah.
Um, so you've spoken a bit about the darker moments that you've had in your life,
Mhm.
the low moments, the times when you were questioning your identity and where you fit into the world.
Mhm.
And before me, I see an inspirational, strong, generous human being. And
Mhm.
I just wanted to ask you, Reuben, what gives you strength on your journey? What has given you strength?
What has given me strength? Um, Life. I mean, something I suppose I didn't mention way in the back is, um, I know many of us, whether we're LGBT or not, have thought of suicide, and um, when I looked at it, especially because I had friends who had committed suicide for one reason or another, and I realized who hurts the most. You who's thinking of committing it, or in the end, those who loved you, whom you died for. And so to know that I'm living to help others, um, and hopefully help others who may have the thoughts like I did, come around. Sometimes I wish I had gotten a degree in psychology, but I'm always willing to lend an ear or an arm or whatever, even to the person who can't touch me because of the fact that we're oceans apart. But you know, the thought of knowing that I can talk like this, or up on a bima, or wherever, and proudly say that I'm a gay Jewish man, I think speaks volumes. And I'd love to find a way, because I know there isn't. I know there's Keshet and whatnot here in Chicago, but I don't think that it's doing enough. I wish there was an organization. I don't know, maybe I could start one for the Orthodox young men and women, because one of the things that upset me when Orthodox closed, I know why. It's because we felt that it wasn't needed. But when I tried to bring up, we need to move actually farther west, away from where we were, people, we didn't think hard enough about wanting to welcome our Orthodox brothers and sisters, who I know there are many of them still struggling, because I see it through friends of mine from New York, who some of them, I'm not even sure how I became friends with some of them, but they have thanked me for helping them out, and I would love to do more here in my own hometown. If I may backtrack a little more, when I was in Israel for the Pride event, I took a class where we were trying to figure out, was the word tolerance what we wanted, or respect? And I brought up something that happened to me when I got my first computer. I was on one of the real dating sites, and someone decided to put me down, not only because he considered, or his portion of the religion considered Reformed Judaism nothing but dirt, but he also told me what I was eating was wrong, what I was wearing was wrong. And here we are in this class, and there were men around me who said, gee, that could have been me on your computer. The only reason it couldn't have been because you said that this was 6 years ago, and I probably was only about 16, 17, and probably not allowed near a computer yet. But to be able to have that conversation and realize that, we're all in this together, Jew, Gentile, no matter where we are on our religious spectrum. The first thing we need to do is respect each other.
I think you're right. It all comes down to respect, and you speak so eloquently. If there's anyone to set up a congregation in Chicago or nearby for Orthodox LGBT Jews, then I can't think of anyone better than yourself, Reuben.
Well, now all I need is money.
Of course.
Donations, that's the hat. But But it's funny. I've actually meant to bring this out many a time when you asked for trinkets. Back in this is actually what I had picked up when I was in Israel from my grandfather. My grandfather, we always called him the odd one of his family, although the whole family was odd. And I saw this elephant that looks like it's got a globe on him. Let's see. My I was trying to find. Let's see, that's South America. I know I found Australia on here before, but yeah, I was even my grandfather. When I handed it to him, he said, "Now there truly is an elephant in the room." Um, there is someone who people always say, where does that, because we're trying to learn through science that we know that being gay is genetic. It's not something we choose to be, because if we chose it, why would we? It's although people have bounced that back and said, well, you choose to be Jewish. And I'm like, yeah, okay, you got your point there. But it threw me for a loop. My grandfather's last year of life, I don't know how many times we would be in an elevator in the building he lived in, which is actually the building I'm in now. And his caregiver and I would be taking him out to lunch, and there would be one of the maintenance men. And I sat there thinking, oh my God, I've not been that brave yet. But he'd say, turn to the maintenance man and say, good morning, as he grabbed the man by the crotch. And I was like, okay, I think I know where I got my, even though my grandfather probably would deny it possibly. I have a feeling that there may be where one of the genes came from. But that was the I miss him so. Nothing like bringing videos of the concerts I've been home and putting them on, and him saying hello to me, and then he'll look at me after I haven't answered and turn to me, because I'm now sitting there, and saying, why aren't you saying hello? And I hope that I live to be in my 90s and will be able to say that, if not to my own grandchildren, to some young kid who was showing me a video of his concert and turning to them and saying, why won't you say hello to me? Even though I know the video can't say but that may soon happen. So.
Thank you, Reuben, again for taking the time to share some words of wisdom and a bit of your incredible story. I just wanted to ask, as we reach the end of our journey, do you have any final thoughts, any last messages you would like to offer to anyone who may view this video now, in the future?
Life is full of ups and downs. and there's always going to be obstacles, but try your hardest to come over them, because the answer is not in the little pill or the knife or the whatever you're gonna try and use for suicide. Um, there's always adventure out there, and especially now that we're in the computer age, seek it out, because you'll be happy that you did. And those of you who are struggling because of being more religious, find a way to seek out what you can, because you'd be surprised, especially now, how much more what's the word I'm thinking? Accepting the Jewish world is becoming. We've had one last thing. I was the congregation of Hadash was invited by a congregation in my neighborhood, where they're going to talk about being gay and being with God. And most of us who went more Hadash went with the thought of, oh boy, how negative this is going to be. And it was so nice to see how negative it wasn't. And I'm hoping that our governments can see it, but it's going to take. It took my generation to move one step. Now it's the next generation's turn to step up, and but you got to take it in baby steps, because the minute you start pushing too fast, I think that's when you'll really fall. And but it's so great to see the freedoms that we've gotten so far. Let's forge together and bring on the freedoms of tomorrow.
I think that's a really beautiful message to leave us on.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say for myself, it is a pleasure to spend this time with you, Reuben.
Yeah.
And I think that anyone who hears your story will be able to take something away, whether it's the lessons of empathy and listening, whether it's the shared struggles that you've had that they can identify in their own stories,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's your connection to Judaism or your connection to your LGBT identity or to Israel, and to your family. And so again, I just want to say thank you. And yeah, here's to the next time we get to share our story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lehitraot.
להתראות.